Hey, I've got a new word for you today. It's called chunking. Chunking. Yeah, you heard me right. Chunking. How do we take big concepts and break it down into little bite-sized chunks for your leaders? We're going to talk about that today here on Kid Story Quick Tips. Well, what is chunking? Chunking is taking something that's pretty big and breaking it down into small bite-sized pieces. In our world today where everything is happening so fast, and with Instagram and things of the social media, that man, you've got to grab people's attention really quickly. And if they're watching TV, they've got commercials that are happening, and those commercials are happening about every 7, 8, 10 minutes, and people are used to that rhythm. And so when it comes time for now you to do a training or to be working with leaders especially, and that's what we're going to talk about this week, is that how do you take the big chunks of information and break it down into little bite-sized pieces so that they're grasping it, understanding it, and you're creating an environment that's experiential. Didn't say that right, experiential, and that they're actually experiencing it and being active involvement in the process of learning. So how do you chunk it? Look back and think back about some of the workshops that you were involved in learning Kid Story. We tried to chunk it. We tried to make it so that here is the opening. We talked for a little bit, for a few minutes, and then had you come up with an opening for the story of Jesus and Peter walking on the water. Okay, explained it, then actually got you to do something, made it experiential for you to be actually applying it while you're learning it. Okay, did that for a period of time. Then we went on to the next piece, which was the background. Explained a little bit about what background was about, then had you go back into your groups and come up with a background for the story of Jesus and Peter walking on the water, or whatever story you may have used in your training. Then we took the aspect of how do you learn and tell the story. Now, we didn't put all that together in one piece. We actually first talked about, okay, how do you learn the story? Then we started talking about, well, what is it going to take to actually tell the story? And we talked about how God is the master storyteller and what did he do? And in between those times, we would actually have you actually applying it and trying it and doing it in groups or individually, of learning the story, and then the different aspects of, things that could be added to the telling of the story, not the story itself, but the actual telling of the story. And then we broke it down into, okay, the next part is, now that you've learned the story, now it's time for you to actually tell the story. And we talked about different pieces and ways of telling the story. So we talked about audience participation. And then, it had a piece of cloth and had you do something with a piece of cloth, little chunk, little activity to apply it. Then we talked about using your senses and what are some different ways to use your senses. And then we talked about, audience participation and getting them involved, and so all these different little chunks, and then you did an activity to apply it. This is what we call chunking. And so it works great in a workshop, no matter what kind of workshop that you're doing. Okay, take one aspect of what you want them to learn, teach for a few minutes on that, and then have them apply it, have them do something about it. And then at the end of that session, you're going to have some form of activity where they're now going to have to do that last hand question of like, okay, what am I going to do now with what I've learned? What have I learned that I can now apply? Doesn't mean I have to do all of it, but it's one thing that I can make a change and make a difference in to apply that chunk that I just learned. Okay, so chunking your material. Take it in bite-sized pieces. You actually teach for a little bit, have them do an activity where they're actually experimenting and utilizing the thing that you just taught them. And then now what am I going to do? I've learned it, I've applied it. Now, when I go back to my environment, in my context, how am I going to use this? Chunking. Taking the big, making it small, making it applicable. Thanks for joining us here on this week's Kid Story Quick Tips. God bless you.